If you want to continue to follow our adventure, click subscribe. So you don't miss anything, click the bell notification. I've made a couple videos recently where I told you that, we've done so much traveling this month that we ran out of gas money. $160 is what we budget every month. So two famous comments that have come from the result of that statement, I've ran out of gas money for the month, is one, raise your budget. And two, well, if you can't afford more gas than that, then you need to be getting out of this lifestyle. Well, honestly, both statements are absolutely incorrect. The first one, raise your budget. Well, what's the point of having a budget if you're not going to stick with the budget? A budget isn't something that's flexible to me. A budget is something that is a fixed number, and we are not going to exceed this number. Secondly, I actually have a mandatory criteria for ourselves that we put away more money in savings than what our budget is. If you go back into November videos and then go back each month, you'll see that we regularly came well under our budget of $850 a month. A couple times over the summer, we only spent $500 a month. But our budget being $850, we stopped spending money as close as possible, of course, at that point. So $850, we're going to put more in savings, more money in savings than $850 a month every month. That's our goal. That's what we try to do every month. Of course, we try to put some into our emergency fund. So quickly, let's talk about the emergency fund. The emergency fund, I believe, because we've had several emergencies while we've been out here, that you need enough emergency fund to replace everything you own twice. So if you have a $100,000 home, motor home, then you may want to consider having $200,000 in emergency fund. And that includes, all the stuff that goes in it, all that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, if you just have a small car that you live in, a $10,000 car, then you may want to have $20,000 in an emergency fund. Now, what I always say, people always criticize me for this, you need tens of thousands of dollars in emergency fund. Well, then everybody says, well, when you run out of gas money, go into your emergency fund. Well, it's not an emergency. Let me describe an emergency. Back last year, 2017, someone burned down our camper. And, now you can say, oh, well, you should have had insurance on it. It was a $650 camper. It wasn't worth, the insurance company said it wasn't really worth even getting insurance on it, because in the end, I would end up paying more for the insurance than what the camper was worth. They wouldn't have given me the $650, is what they were trying to say. So, you become your own financial institution with your emergency fund. So, we was able to build our truck camper. Insurance on a truck should not be considered as part of your emergency fund. If you blow up your engine, for example, well, you could go and buy a new engine. That might be a little bit cheap. Or on the other hand, you might have to buy a new truck. Insurance isn't going to cover that. We have dipped into our emergency fund 3 times now. And so we're always trying to replenish our emergency fund. Now, the rest of the money that we make, so we got $850 is our budget. Then we have some going into our emergency fund, to build up our emergency fund. Every time we deplete it, we have to build it up. Well, we just keep building. Then we get into saving. And the reason you need to be putting money in savings is you're going to need retirement money. You're going to want to buy a new vehicle one of these days. And I've always talked about being debt-free. You don't want to come out here being in debt or getting into debt, because now you not only have to put money in an emergency fund, you have to put money in a savings account. Now you're paying off debt. So I just put money back each month. So when I have to replace my vehicle, I don't have to go in debt. I don't have to pay that interest. For some reason, people don't understand how costly that interest is. Interest, if I buy a $10,000 car, I'm going to spend $10,000 with my savings. But if you buy a $10,000 car, you may end up paying $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000 in interest. So over your lifetime, you're going to lose that money. Whereas me, I can actually earn interest off my savings. This is so critically important. I see so many people saying, Rob, if you can live off $850, then surely I can too. Well, there's a couple things to this. One, if you can live off $850, you got to be willing to make the sacrifices that Carolyn and I make. And from the comments, I would say a lot of people aren't willing to make these sacrifices. I said that we ran out of gas money and we were here in the Apalachicola National Forest. Just so happens the Rainbow group is here, which is not a very friendly group, and the campgrounds are starting to fill up. But we're going to wait until next month before we move. Well, that's crazy, Rob. The Rainbow group's way over there. They're leaving us alone so we don't have to travel. So I'm not just going to up and leave because the Rainbow group happens to be in the area. Until I see evidence that they're going to cause trouble with me, I'm going to stay. Saving money. Just met a guy who lives off Social Security. And he lives down here in Florida. He just goes from one campsite to another campsite to another campsite. Back when Hurricane Michael hit this area. So he's on Social Security and he spent all his money. Well, then all of a sudden this hurricane just sneaks up out of nowhere. Well, it was Category 5 hurricane, Category 4, Category 5 hurricane hit this area. He did not have the money to move his travel trailer. He couldn't go anywhere. He stayed in this national forest with the hurricane knocking down trees. He stayed inside the privy as his storm shelter. So this is the situation when I'm talking about that you got to be able to start putting money back. That in my case would have been an emergency, where you need to spend a little extra gas money to get out of here. And he couldn't. So you got to be financially responsible when you come out here. Gene on the road says, whatever you plan to do, however much money you plan to spend, so if your budget's $1,000, you need to make at least $2,000. $1,000 for your monthly budget and $1,000 into your emergency fund and savings. Thanks for watching. Click like if you like the video and happy travels.